Welcome to the Ultimate Beginner Quilt Series by Fat Quarter Shop. In this series, I'm going to be showing you how to make a quilt all the way from the start to the finish. This series is sponsored by Moda Fabrics and Eversewn Sewing Machines. I'm going to be giving you lots of tips, and we're going to be building our first quilt together. Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to prepare your backing for your Ultimate Beginner Quilt series. So let's get started. To prepare your quilt back, I like to assume that you need 10 inches around the quilt, 5 inches on each side. So our quilt finishes at 50.5-inch square. So I want my backing to measure 60.5-inch square. Approximately, doesn't have to be perfect, but that's kind of the eyeball math that I use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 pieces 60.5 inches by width of fabric. We're going to sew those together and then trim it down. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So we started with 3 3/8 yards. So if you just pull your backing piece apart just like it comes, I like to keep it lined up on the fold, and I'm just going to cut that in half because I need 2 pieces that are 60.5, and you can just cut it any which way. It doesn't have to be straight. You just cut off the end. So I'm going to measure my 2 pieces, and they come out to 60.5, which is more than enough. And so what you're doing is you're making it big enough so on your long arm quilter, if they have to put that on the machine, there's plenty enough to stretch. And Gina, when she does the video on long arm quilting, she's going to explain more about it because she actually does the quilting. So I've got my 2 pieces, and if you put 2 44-inch pieces together, you're going to get about 80 inches. So we'll trim that down later, but right now we're just going to go across the width. I am going to take 2 selvages and leave them together. That's what I do. So I just line them up. So I've got the selvage at the top. And this is before I iron anything. I'm going to put my 2 selvages together, right sides together. Since this is solid, it doesn't matter, but normally it would be right side together. And then I line up the selvages, and I line it up again. I just keep all the selvages aligned. Now I'm going to iron. I'm going to iron it just like this, all the way across, just on top. We're going to do the overall ironing at the end, but I'm going to be piecing along this end. So we're going to get the iron out, and we're going to iron this as flat as we can, and then I'm going to show you how I piece my backing. So I've got my selvage ends together still at the end of my iron. Now here what I'm doing is I'm just going to do an overall iron. This is not going to be my final press. I just want to get a couple of the wrinkles out. At the very end, I press everything. So here I'm just doing like an overall beginning press. This is not going to be my final press. The reason I do it this way is I just like to use it straight off the bolt before I iron too much because it keeps the selvages together. Nothing has moved too much, and I can really keep those selvages together. So we're going to do an overall iron at the end, but at the beginning I just kind of do a gentle press. So again, I've got all of my selvages together here at one end, right sides together, and we're going to go ahead and trim and pin, and I'm going to show you how you piece your backing. So now you can see my 2 pieces of fabric are right sides together, selvage to selvage. So when I pull this off, I'm ready to sew because it's already lined up. Everything is lined up on the fold. Everything is folded together really nice and straight on the selvage. That's why I don't like to move it too much. I just like to keep that selvage together before you start ironing everything because then it gets too wrinkled. So if you look at this, I've got it lined up here, and my line at the bottom also measures, so I'm going to cut it straight. Right here, I just go through all those layers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin it together, 2 layers at a time, and then when you get to your sewing machine, everything is in order. So you can just go layer by layer, pin it before you go to your sewing machine, nothing moves. So that's why I don't iron everything out. I just keep it all straight off the bolt. I try to go straight off the bolt as I can. It's gonna come together better than if you pull it all out and then try to put it back together. So I'm just gonna put some pins, and I'm gonna show you technically on the machine how you're supposed to do it. What you're supposed to do is stitch with a 1/2 inch seam and press open. That's what we're gonna do today. But I'm gonna tell you that in my house, I use a 1/4 inch seam and press to one side. So I break the rules on the back because I never knew that you were supposed to do a 1/2 inch until I had been quilting about 5 years. So I just kept doing it kind of like out of habit. But I am gonna show you today what you're supposed to do. But I actually cheat and use a 1/4 inch seam and press to one side. So let's go to the sewing machine. So I am going to put my needle in the needle down position with an open toe foot, put a ruler right on the needle at the 1/2 inch line. That's about 1/2 inch. And I am going to place tape down at approximately a 1/2 inch. Doesn't have to be exact because it's the back. So we're gonna follow this line when we're stitching our back. And I'm just gonna bring this over. And I'm just gonna stitch with a 1/2 inch seam. And I am using a 2.0 stitch length on this. And you can see I'm using the washi tape as a guide. It doesn't have to be exact, as long as it's straight. And it was that simple to piece the backing together. Now we're gonna go iron it. So the key to putting your backing set together the way that I do it is to really pull it out of your package and don't iron it and get it all out of order, because it just keeps all your fabric laying nice because it's laying just like it came off the bolt. So now that I have the two pieced together, I'm going to set the seam and I'm going to iron before I press it open. And this is where I get all of my ironing done after I've done that stitch. And the reason why is it just stays just like it was on the bolt. Nothing gets out of alignment. If you took it and ironed all of it and then tried to put it back together, your fabric is not going to line up like it did when it came off the bolt. So in the end, I think this saves a lot of time, is to piece it and then iron it and get all your wrinkles out. Everything just stays nice and aligned. And on the other end, you see that the selvage is still on there, and that's okay. We're going to cut that off in a little bit. I will turn my fabric over and iron the other side. And if you feel like you need to, you can even flip it open and iron. You just iron as much as you want. I just do it after I've got that seam in. I do think it is very important to iron all of your fabric before you send it to your long arm quilter. So many of my friends that are long arm quilters say that people don't iron their backing before they send it in, and that makes it hard for the long arm quilter to quilt your work. And also, if it's not ironed and it's wrinkly, when they quilt it in, those wrinkles are going to be in there, unless your long arm quilter is super nice and irons it for you. But you really should iron it yourself. And so now I'm going to actually turn it inside out, which doesn't even really matter, and just iron the other side. That way I get all of the lines out before I press it, because once you press it, it's going to be harder to get it back together. And you can see all your fabric is laying together because that's how it was on the bolt. So it's kind of used to it being in that order. So yeah, I always do my backings. I just pull it right out of the package and try to cut it off right away. Another thing, I do not starch my backings. I do starch all of my fabrics for the front, so technically you should starch your backings so that they will shrink at the same rate. I never wash my quilts, so it doesn't matter. But I just don't. I've never had a problem even when I do wash. It doesn't bother me. I think it's a lot of work to starch your backings, but you can do it whatever works best for you. Remember, there's no rules. You do whatever you want to do, whatever works best in your house. So now I've got this all ironed, and I'm going to first press to one side. Actually, I'm going to get this wrinkle out before. And as long as you keep it nice and flat when you're doing two sides, it won't crease on the inside. If it's not nice and flat before you iron, you're going to get a crease on the other side. So now I'm going to press to one side. And the reason that they make it a 1/2 inch seam on the back is because it's going to handle a lot of stress because it's holding the whole back together. That's why people suggest a 1/2 inch. But like I said, I'm just showing you the traditional way that most people do it. And again, I'm finger pressing to one side so I can really feel that under there it's going to one side first. And I pull on one side so that seam is nice and flat. I don't want a duck pleat there. So first to one side. And doing backings can be difficult, so it's great that this quilt is a smaller quilt, so you can get used to working with something smaller. Now we will flip it over. And then press it open. So I like to finger press as I go. Just try not to get the iron too close to your finger as you're doing it, because you'll burn yourself like I do all the time. And I'm using steam. I'm going to turn it back over. And make sure that everything still is flat, and it is. It's nice and flat. So our backing is done, and now since one side is too long, it's 84 instead of 60 wide, we're going to trim that down a little bit. Now some long arm quilters will take your backing just super big, but they do prefer that it be trimmed down. So we have this sewn together, and again, if you measure this from side to side, it is going to be 60.5 inches. Again, our quilt is 50.5 inches, so we've left 5 inches on each side. So if you look at the fabric the other way, I'm just gonna do this. If it's doubled up, it's about 80 inches. We need it to be about 60 inches. This fabric is doubled. 60.5 divided by 2 is 30.25. So I'm going to trim this to approximately that. And this is going to be left over. This cut doesn't have to even be straight because it's going on the back and it's going to be trimmed off. So you can save this piece for another quilt. Just put it in your stack of stash, and your fabric is nice and ironed. And what I would do is I would fold it up, have it nice and ready for your long arm quilter. Our next videos, I'm going to introduce Gina Tell to you, and she's going to show you 2 different ways that you can quilt this on your machine at home. And then at the very ending video, I'm going to show you how you put your binding and put it all together. So see you next week, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.